Welcome to Emerald Spectrum. Today, we'll explore 3 tragic shipwrecks that changed the course of maritime safety. You've probably heard of the Titanic, but stay tuned to hear about 2 other similar disasters. Click the subscribe button and share. First up, let's talk about the Titanic. The RMS Titanic, a luxurious British passenger liner, embarked on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City, USA, on April 10, 1912. The ship was deemed unsinkable due to its advanced safety features, including watertight compartments and a double-hull design. However, tragedy struck on the night of April 14, 1912. As the Titanic sailed through the icy waters of the North Atlantic, the crew received multiple warnings about the presence of icebergs in the area. Despite these warnings, the ship maintained its course at a high speed, driven by a desire to break speed records and arrive in New York ahead of schedule. The night was calm and clear, with no moonlight to illuminate the surrounding icebergs. At around 11:40 p.m., Lookout Frederick Fleet spotted an iceberg directly ahead and alerted the bridge. First Officer William Murdoch ordered the ship to be steered hard to port and the engines to be reversed, but it was too late. The Titanic grazed the iceberg along its starboard side, opening up a series of long slits below the waterline. The impact compromised multiple watertight compartments, causing the ship to begin flooding. The ship's design, with its watertight compartments, was intended to keep it afloat even if several compartments were breached. However, the scale of the damage exceeded these specifications. The water poured into the compartments, causing the bow to sink lower and lower into the ocean. As the compartments filled, the water spilled over into adjacent compartments, exacerbating the flooding. Despite the efforts of the crew to launch lifeboats and evacuate passengers, there were not enough lifeboats for everyone on board. As the ship's stern rose higher out of the water, it became increasingly unstable. At around 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the Titanic broke in two and sank beneath the waves, taking with it over 1,500 souls. The sinking of the Titanic prompted significant changes in maritime safety regulations, including requirements for more lifeboats, better training for crew members, and improved communication and navigation practices. The tragedy remains one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history, immortalized in books, films, and popular culture. The second tragic incident that I want to talk about is Lusitania ship in 1915. The sinking of the RMS Lusitania in 1915 is a tragic event with significant repercussions, occurring during World War I. The RMS Lusitania, a British ocean liner operated by the Cunard Line, was renowned for its luxurious accommodations and speed. It was one of the largest and fastest ships of its time. However, with the outbreak of World War I in 1914, the ship's peacetime voyages were interrupted, and it was requisitioned for war service. Despite being used for civilian purposes, the Lusitania's speed and size made it a potential target for enemy attacks. On May 7, 1915, while en route from New York to Liverpool, the Lusitania was torpedoed by the German submarine U-20 off the coast of Ireland. The torpedo struck the ship's starboard side, causing a massive explosion. Within minutes, the Lusitania began to sink. The cause of the sinking can be attributed to multiple factors. Firstly, the Lusitania, although a civilian vessel, was not adequately equipped or prepared for naval warfare. Secondly, despite warnings in American newspapers, advising travelers against sailing on ships flying the flags of Allied nations, the warnings were largely disregarded. Additionally, the Lusitania was traveling at reduced speed due to fog, making it an easier target for the submarine. Lastly, the torpedo strike ignited a secondary explosion, likely caused by the ship's cargo of munitions, hastening its sinking. The sinking resulted in the deaths of 1,198 passengers and crew, including 128 Americans. Among the casualties were women, children, and prominent individuals from various countries. The lack of sufficient lifeboats also contributed to the high death toll. And lastly, the sinking of MV Sewol ship in South Korea, 2014. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The sinking of the MV Sewol in South Korea in 2014 was a tragic maritime disaster that resulted in significant loss of life. MV Sewol was a South Korean ferry that operated between the mainland port of Incheon and the island of Jeju. On April 16, 2014, the ferry was carrying 476 passengers, including many high school students on a field trip, as well as crew members. While en route to Jeju, the Sewol encountered trouble. The ferry made a sharp turn, causing it to list heavily to one side. Within minutes, the ship began to capsize. Despite distress calls and rescue efforts, the situation quickly deteriorated. Passengers were instructed to remain in their cabins, and the crew initially delayed the order to evacuate. Tragically, the majority of passengers were unable to escape the sinking ship. Of the 476 people on board, only 172 were rescued. In conclusion, even though the circumstances that evolved around the three casualties were different, but the incident is almost likened to each other as negligence played a huge role in the event, and those three incidents triggered a need for preventive measures against wreckage that might happen to ship on the sea. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep exploring. See you soon on Emerald Spectrum.